The greatest defeats in your life didn't come with an explosion. They came with a whisper, a half-second reflex, a line you said too fast. That's not what I meant. It always starts the same. Someone questions you in public. Not with facts, but with tone, with sarcasm, with an edge. Oh, come on. It's just a joke. I guess someone thinks they're smarter than the rest of us. Or worse. She didn't mean anything by it. She just likes the spotlight. And without thinking, you step in. You defend. You clean it up. You explain, clarify, and apologize. That's when it happens. Not out loud, not visibly, but deep in the eyes of everyone watching. You lost. You didn't get beaten. You handed them the sword. Because when you say, I'm not what you think, what they hear is, please believe me. And that's surrender. The Machiavellian truth, power never explains. Machiavelli didn't need a battlefield to see this. He understood it in courtrooms, in council chambers, in whispers behind closed doors. He knew the instant you feel the need to explain yourself, you've already accepted someone else's right to question you. And in power, that's suicide. You've been there, misunderstood, cornered. And the first thing you did, you explained. But it didn't fix anything. In fact, it made it worse. They leaned back while you leaned forward. They stayed calm while you got emotional. By the time you finished talking, you knew. You gave them everything. The more you explain, the less they respect you. Not because of what you said, but because you said anything at all. The rule of perception: never flinch first. In the game of perception, there's only one rule that matters. Don't flinch first. Because the man who explains always looks smaller than the man who just watches. And that's exactly what you didn't do. You talked, you reached, you reacted, and they watched you fold from across the table. You didn't get attacked. You exposed yourself. The world didn't see a victim. They saw blood. Defending yourself feels noble. It feels honest. It feels necessary. But only to the weak. To the powerful, it's submission. Because when you defend yourself, you're not just answering a question. You're agreeing that the question deserved an answer. You're saying, yes, your judgment matters. Yes, your perception has power over me. Yes, I care what you think. You've stepped onto their field. You're playing their game. And the moment you do that, you've already lost. The courtroom you can't win. Explaining is like standing in a courtroom where the judge already decided the verdict. And the jury, they're watching your face, not your words. You think clarity brings peace. It doesn't. It brings exposure. And the exposed man bleeds first. People say, I just want to be understood. But that desire doesn't come from strength. It comes from emotional hunger, from insecurity, from the need to be validated by people who've already decided who you are. Machiavelli didn't chase understanding. He chased control. Because control doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being unreadable. There's no power in being fully known, only vulnerability, only leverage you gave away. The power of silence. You want control? Stop talking. Let them guess. Let them wonder what you're really thinking. Let them overestimate you. That's how aura is built. You've been in this position before, explaining, clarifying, and trying to undo the damage with words. And the more you talked, the less you were heard. Because in that moment, you weren't commanding anything. You were begging, and the room could feel it. You weren't leading the conversation. You were chasing it. You were leaking your power, sentence by sentence. The Machiavellian mirror. The most powerful people don't win arguments. They end them before they begin. Not with logic, not with evidence, but with presence. A stillness that says, I know who I am, and I don't need your confirmation. Ever met someone like that? They didn't speak much. But when they did, everyone listened, not because their words were perfect, but because they never spoke unless they chose to. That's the power you gave up the second you tried to explain yourself. The art of the mirror. You don't win by defending. You win by reflecting, not the truth, but the weakness of the attacker. They throw a jab. Something subtle, just loud enough for the room to hear. A joke wrapped in venom. A compliment dipped in poison. Everyone watches you. They expect tension, a comeback, a reaction. But you give them nothing. No words. No smirk. No shift in your eyes. You sit still and let the insult hang in the air like a stale smell. You don't clean it. You let the room inhale it. And the moment stretches too long, too uncomfortably silent. Now it's not about you anymore. It's about them. Why did they say that? What are they trying to prove? Are they bitter? Jealous? Unstable? You've said nothing, but you've turned the spotlight. They want to put you on trial. Now they're the ones being examined. That's the mirror. It doesn't fight. It reflects. And no one's ready to see what they really look like. The final weapon, absence. There's a level beyond silence. It's not quite, it's absence, not avoidance. Elimination. You don't defend. You don't respond. You don't react. You vanish. Not blocked, not ghosted, unseen. You become the shadow that no longer reflects light. And that absence shakes people in ways noise never could. Someone attacks you publicly, emotionally, strategically. They want a reaction. They feed off it. Even hate is nourishment to them because it proves they still matter. But you give them nothing. They write a long message. You don't open it. They post about you. You don't comment. They speak your name. You don't say it back. You're not being passive. You're not being scared. You're declaring. You are not worth a reply. And the human ego cannot survive irrelevance. Most people can tolerate being hated. But being ignored? That's starvation. You've seen it. They start spinning, posting more, talking more, tagging you indirectly, trying to bait a response. But you're not there. You're not playing. You're above it. And the higher you rise, the more frantic they become. Because now it's not just about what they said. It's about the silence swallowing them whole. They fall into their own noise. They become obsessed. You didn't say a word, but the world watched them unravel. The ultimate power, aura doesn't ask for respect. It creates caution. It's the energy that makes people rethink their words before they say them to you. It's built in, restraint, the calm that doesn't crack, the silence that feels heavier than noise. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You don't even need to respond. You just need to be unshakable. Because in a world addicted to attention, the one who doesn't need it terrifies everyone. The final lesson. You don't need to defend your name. You need to become the kind of man whose name doesn't need defending. Because silence is an absence. It's control. And the man who controls his silence, he controls everything. The unseen war. How silence becomes your greatest weapon. The world teaches you to fight back, to defend, to explain, to justify. But the most dangerous men in history knew the truth. The greatest battles are won without a single word. When you refuse to engage, you don't just deny your enemy a fight. You deny the meaning, the collapse of the desperate. You've seen it before. Someone throws an insult. You stay silent. They escalate. They push harder. They need you to react. But you give them nothing. Now the room shifts. They look unstable. They sound emotional. They start justifying themselves to no one. The more they talk, the weaker they appear. Because when you don't flinch, they start flinching at their own reflection. The myth of the unshaken man. Power isn't taken. It's projected. The man who never explains himself isn't hiding. He's untouchable. People don't fear the loudest voice in the room. They fear the one who could speak, but doesn't. Because silence forces others to fill the gaps with their own fears. He must know something I don't. He's planning something. He's too secure to care. You don't control the narrative. You become the narrative. The invisible leverage of absence. When you disappear, you don't lose, you transcend. Your absence becomes a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. So they rush to fill it with speculation, with obsession, with desperation. And the longer you stay gone, the more they unravel. They double down. They over-explain. They expose their own weakness. You didn't defeat them. You let them defeat themselves. The ultimate power move. The strongest stance isn't offense or defense. It's indifference. Someone insults you? Let them. Someone questions you? Let them. Someone tries to drag you into their chaos? Let them drown alone. Because the moment you refuse to play, the game ends. And the only one left standing? You. Silently. Unmoved. Untouchable, the anatomy of unspoken dominance. Why your silence terrifies them. There exists a hidden law of power. The more you refuse to engage, the more power you accumulate. This isn't passive resistance, it's strategic invisibility. When you master the art of absence, you don't just win battles, you erase entire war fields. The psychological warfare of non-engagement. Every human interaction operates on an economy of attention. When you withdraw yours, you create a debt others scramble to repay. The provoker's paradox. The harder they push for a reaction, the more foolish they appear when none comes. The bystander effect. Witnesses instinctively side with the composed party, not the aggressor. The erosion principle. Without reinforcement, even the sharpest attacks dull with repetition. History's most formidable figures understood this. Caesar didn't defend himself against the Senate's accusations. He crossed the Rubicon. Rockefeller never justified his wealth. He built libraries. The 3 stages of silent conquest. 1. The test. They probe for weakness with veiled insults. 2. The vacuum. You respond with calculated silence. 3. The self-destruction. They escalate until their own credibility collapses. This isn't avoidance. It's allowing gravity to do what fists cannot. The alchemy of perception. When you stop explaining, rumors become mystique. Insults become beneath you. Attacks become desperate. Your silence functions as a psychological mirror, forcing others to confront their own motivations. The angrier they become at your no reaction, the more they reveal about themselves. The unbreakable framework. 1. Physical stillness, no flinching, no reactive body language. 2. Temporal dominance, let uncomfortable silences linger. 3. Social proof, allow third parties to defend you organically. This creates what Sun Tzu called invincibility without battle, the ultimate truth. Power isn't taken. It's conferred by others' inability to provoke you. When you refuse to acknowledge attacks, you don't just negate them, you retroactively erase their validity. The strongest fortress isn't one that withstands sieges, but one attackers realize was never there to besiege in the first place. Your silence isn't shield. It's the dissolution of the battlefield itself. Final lesson. The world will try to force you into its dramas. Your power lies in refusing to audition for their plays. When you transcend the need for understanding, you become incomprehensible and therefore unstoppable. The silent stratagem, how to weaponize absence in the modern arena. The greatest power moves are not made, they are withheld. When you refuse to engage, you don't just deny your opponent a battle, you deny them oxygen. In the digital age where attention is currency and outrage is fuel, silence becomes the ultimate flex. The 4D chess of non-reactor. 1. The bait phase, they provoke, hoping to drag you into their frame. 2. The void phase, you disappear, completely, unnervingly. 3. The spiral phase, they double down, exposing their desperation. 4. The legacy phase, observers remember only their meltdown, not your response. This is how you win wars without firing a shot. The psychological jujitsu of silence. Cognitive dissonance. When your calm contradicts their aggression, bystanders subconsciously side with you. Projection vacuum. Your silence forces them to fill the space with their own insecurities. Social proof shift. The longer you stay quiet, the more others will speak for you. This isn't about being passive. It's about making them actively self-destruct. The digital gladiator's code. 1. Never explain. Explanations are for the weak. 2. Never complain. Complaints are confessionals. 3. Never celebrate. Victory is self-evident. 4. Never react. Reactions are concessions of power. The modern arena rewards those who understand. Visibility is vulnerability. The unspoken hierarchy of power. 1. Those who must scream to be heard. 2. Those who speak only when necessary. 3. Those who communicate without words. 4. Those who need not even appear. Your goal is level 4, the final gambit. When you master strategic silence, rumors become mythology, attacks become advertisements, enemies become unpaid promoters. Because in the end, the loudest sound in any room is the one you don't make. Remember, The most powerful people in any era weren't those who shouted the loudest. They were those who could afford to say nothing at all. Your silence isn't empty. It's pregnant with meaning they'll spend lifetimes trying to decipher. Now go forth and say less.